Hello and welcome to the Literary Bar. How you doing? Hopefully thriving and not merely surviving. Recently, General Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida released his highly anticipated memoir, A Journey in Service. Some people have read the entire book or excerpts. Others will make up their minds, unfortunately, from listening to pundits dissect parts of this book. My guest today has read the book, and so have I, and he has a personal relationship with IBB, so he has a better understanding of the book than most people. Grab a cup of tea or something stronger and join us after the break. Welcome back. When President Babangida's book, A Journey in Service, was launched, it caused quite a furore, and it's still causing. Nigerians wanted answers to questions that have always buzzed around IBB. June 12, Diligiwa, coups and counter-coups, Maman Vatsa, etc. He gave a first-hand account and his truth in response to these questions and more in this book. However, Nigerians are still struggling to accept his truth as stated. To make sense of the book and to tackle some of these doubts, I'm joined at the bar by Pince Kassim Afegbua, who has worked closely with the enigma that is IBB. Pince Kassim Afegbua is a public affairs analyst, a former commissioner of information in Edo State, and also a former gubernatorial candidate in Edo State. He also served as a director for Publicity Edo State APC Gubernatorial Campaign Council that ushered in the current governor. Pince Afegbua is a columnist, and his thought-provoking and witty articles are always a delight to read. Kassim Afegbua was General Babangida's spokesperson at some point. Welcome, Pince Kassim Afegbua.
Thank you very much for having me. I was a gubernatorial aspirant. Not a candidate.
Okay. Oh yeah, you aspired. And anyway, congratulations to APC with that Bakomiza.
Yeah, thank you very much. a new lease of life has started in Edo.
Yes,
and we have a governor who understands the dynamics of the state, who also is very much at home with the ordinary folks out there. And you can see his level of performance just barely a little above 100 days of being in office. I am very proud, that he won that election, and I'm also excited at the level that he has taken governance to. Because this is not just sheer rhetorics. You can see practical governance at play in all the critical sectors of the economy of the state.
Well done to all of you that worked tirelessly to get him in. But today, it's all about the man who was in office for 8 years. And prior to him being in office for 8 years and beyond, his trajectory has been in service of Nigeria. So we're talking other than Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida, former military president of Nigeria. And the book in question, which you so graciously gave me a copy, is A Journey in Service. First things first, this book, like I said, has generated a lot of furore, and it's still on that path. I want to say that a lot of people have not actually read this book, but they seem to have opinions. What is it about Babangida that attracts so much criticisms and negative opinions?
IBB is human. Any human being is bound to be interpreted in two ways, or even in three ways: the bad, the good, and the ugly. And so you either love IBB passionately or you hate him intensely. It's not the road of the middleman. And like every human being, people are bound, just to say, every coin has two faces. So people don't seem to realize that he's a human being. They think maybe IBB is one superhuman creation, somewhere, and that when he does things, they see it, from that perspective of this superhumanity.
Yeah.
But he's a man who is very humble, very down to earth, who connects to the ordinary folks out there, who fits into every classification in terms of his background and where his profession took him as a military president. He is a family man, well nurtured in that family. Got 4 beautiful children, well behaved, disciplined. You don't get to hear IBB children cussing, some kind of furore somewhere, crisis somewhere, and all of that. You see them when they even greet you. You see the humility, you see the respect of a typical African setting in them. And so you have to also give credit to the wife. The late Mrs. Miriam Babangida.
Yes.
Fantastic woman. So who contributed her own in making the IBB enigma to be so profound.
Yes, he dedicates a chapter to his wife,
Yeah.
We'll get to that, but before all this, like I said, the book, first of all, is a very interesting, thought-provoking book, but it's also simple, that everybody who picks up this book, you won't even know when you move through the chapters. I know that we're all fixated on the June 12th saga and all that, but that coincidentally is the chapter 12 of the book. So there are 11 chapters prior to this, and people just keep talking about this part. I mentioned earlier, a lot of people just take excerpts and all of that and run with it, or whatever people are saying. But the beginning of this book is an invitation into the life of Babangida, because he goes as far as talking about his family, his grandparents, his grandmother. I think her name is Halima, loving. There are some anecdotes about how she is. So, and the fact that Babangida in his memoir carries the weight of a childhood that was filled with love, filled with playfulness, tragedy. He lost his parents quite early, but the family stepped in. All of this is in this book. So we're just talking about an ordinary Nigerian child who was affected by all the vicissitudes of life, and
his own environment.
Providence, Speaking about Providence, I remember a portion of the book where he was 8 years going on 9, that he almost missed out on primary education. And he calls the name of the man who made that happen, that he said, no, he's just a chubby boy. He can still get into school. So all of that, when you're reading it, there's something seductive about IBB. He brings you in and you stay, because it's quite captivating as a human being. And maybe those are all the things that make us, that charisma that he's growing up with, that make all of us love, hate him, we can't ignore him.
You see, thank you. It shows a very clear understanding that you have gone through the book. And like everyone, you have a background, where you are coming from. We don't even know what the future holds for you. And here is a man who grew up through all those initial verisimilitudes, vicissitudes of life and all of that, but he was also able to come out of that by dominating his environment, ensuring that he's able to break the shackles that should ordinarily have held him back. And in the course of his own life, when he had opportunity to preside over the country, he remembered all those who were part and parcel of his upbringing and his growth. Even in school, you remember how he said he was rebellious at some point when, during the heat period, the senior prefect would bring out their beds and all of that. And one day he challenged, them and said, no, the junior class should also bring out their beds and all that. And when they tried to punish him for that,
and change your curve.
It changed the narrative. And you can see that kind of spirit in him. Also helped him in the course of his military career. Because when they said he should go and stop the Dinka coup, he literally went with bare hands. And
he was able to cross him to come. But like I said, this is a book review, and for me, I have to do justice to the fact that someone spent time to write this book. It's a gift to the people, to the reader. So I want to quote something he said, and for me that sets the tone of this book. He says in the prologue, "This book may disappoint those whose eagerness for my memoir is driven by curiosity about the more dramatic moments of our tenure. This is not a book about finding blame, inventing excuses, or whitewashing facts. I have no separate story to tell solely about the drama of state affairs under my watch. We live in a country where primarily uninformed commentators are often the final judges about events they know little about." And so for me, this sets the tone.
Yeah. He had already prepared the mind of the reader. So he has
prepared the mind of the reader that it's not what you expect. This is my story.
That is his story.
And I'm going to run with it.
Yeah. So, and that story is driven by the fact that he has the inalienable right to own an opinion about what he sees or what featured during his trajectory. Not just as a military president, but other engagements he's been confronted with in the course of his growing up, from when he enlisted in the Nigerian military, got commissioned as an officer, and fought in the Civil War, went through all the hassles up to the point of serving the Supreme Military Council as a tender age, down to the coup plot of 1983, 85, how he handled the 1990 coup and the June 12 coming to play. And you see, in all of this, there are different faces of a man who, even in personality, is complex. IBB is a complex personality.
Indeed.
If you like, you may decide to grab him from the feet. You may grab his hand. You may grab his dress, but you can't pin him down.
Yes. So I'm going to take you, as you mentioned the coups, I want to take you back to the first coup. I think somehow there's the talk that everywhere there's a humor, there's a coup. Babangida is there. So he's been at the inception of coups in Nigeria, and he's lived through it even till now. Touch wood, no more coups. Something I think he's against.
No more coups.
But when the Kaduna and Zogu coup happened, in retrospect, he says, maybe it's naivete or not, but he didn't think that it was quite ethnic, because other people also suffered. They had lofty ideas and all of that. But he looks at it, Kaduna and Zogu, in his opinion, is even more Hausa than Igbo, because
I featured in one program this morning on your sister station, or maybe another station, TVC, and the man called and said that he's very happy that IBB has exonerated the Igbos from the coup of 1966 and was snowballing into the first Nigerian Civil War. And I think they got a misreading of him. In his perspective at that point, he was a young man. That was the first major test. And they looked up to Nzogu as their superior officer. He said that Nzogu was born, bred and buttered in Kaduna. He spoke Hausa language more than even his native Igbo. And that what fired the first, pogrom, so to speak, was not from the ethnic perspective, but the thing gradually wear that particular coloration when you juxtapose that with the role of Agboye Ironsi and the subsequent killings and what have you that we witnessed. But he gave a caveat that his reading of that situation may be wrong. But this was the idea behind his own heart, at that period. But his conclusion may be wrong. So he has already given you a window that this is what I'm thinking of, but other events may have proven this to be wrong. But this was my own perspective. Which, it's just like every other issue. You must have an opinion. You must have an opinion. So, but I wouldn't want people to take that as the verdict of history, because there are other accounts, that were woven together to produce, the entire story of the Nigerian 30-month civil war. And here is the curiosity and even the irony of the entire IBB scenario. On the one hand, they are quick to lash onto this one because it's suitable to certain persons. Certain geopolitical consideration. But when he says another thing, because it doesn't suit certain persons, they will say, bring his head, let's slaughter it. You get the point.
Yes.
So, but one thing that is certain, you can't take away the fact that the man has authorial license to convey his impressions, his viewpoints in a most lucid prose.
Yes.
That is very accessible, with very simplistic diction, well patterned to deliver the essence of his message.
Yes.
And so, it's a historical book, a historical account of someone who was seeing Nigeria from his own perspective. Whatever his views are, they are his views.
Certainly.
You cannot impose your views in him, and you want him to toe that line, when in most cases, he was rendering an eyewitness account.
Yeah.
So,
in his opinion.
Yes. And he has been able to create a discourse. And since this book came out, I can say that it toppled the chart for bestseller almost immediately. Because people were calling, even some people were selling the book for 50,000 naira, some for 100,000 naira, even without our knowledge. But the whole essence is not even about the selling or whatever. The whole essence is about is for people to understand and learn from historical details, anecdotes, stories that factorize, the trajectory of a man who presided over the country as a military president for 8 solid years. Just like a democracy, it's just like 2 terms.
Yes.
And
yes,
so,
yes, yes.
like 2 terms.
You had 2 terms, yes.
We appreciate the fact that he buckled under our pressure to write this memoir. Some people say, why did he write the memoir? Why now? Why not now? You don't tell a man when he should write a memoir.
It's better maybe.
We are even waiting for Yakubu Gowon's memoir. General Yakubu Gowon, who left office in 1975. Very cool. And so when we are able, and who also presided over the country at the time, at the most troubling time in Nigerian history, the 30-month civil war. So if we read the accounts of these people, it helps us to know the country better. Our generations yet unborn and the present generation who are not conversant with the history of this country, we're able to learn 1 or 2 things. And that will also prepare them for leadership positions or know how to take decisions at the most auspicious time. So we're happy that IBB has finally written, and we're saying that it will even write more because there are more stories to tell.
Well, let's first digest the one he's written, because people are struggling to actually read this. But speaking of General Yakubu Gowon, he gave the foreword to this book, and he commended Babangida's dedication to building in Nigeria that we'll all be proud of. And I think at a point he said Babangida almost became his aide-de-camp, but it's a story that Babangida will tell if he's also interested in it. He also alluded to his military prowess, all these coups, the civil war, all his participation and the things he did that's well-intentioned, may or may not have worked out well, but the intentions are there. The particular quote where he says, Babangida is a military leader and the political man involved in the political management of our nation. So that brings us into Babangida's tenure itself.
Yes, before you even go there, you see, the IBB fought in the Civil War, and General Gowon was head of state. He became head of state at 32, and that means Babangida was much younger. And on his sick bed, where they were attending to his injuries. His injuries. In May 1969. That was when. That was when Yakubu Gowon got married, and he was watching the Nigerian Television Authority showcasing that marriage, and he was telling himself
that inspired him to marry.
If I survive this treatment, the first thing that will come to mind is to go and get married. Because he said, so if I had died now, I would have just left without leaving an offspring.
And he was his family's last boy. I think his siblings had died, his parents were gone.
So he was about 28 years. So he was wondering that, so that thing now dawned on him that no, he needed to get a wife. And that was when he was discharged. he had to go after a woman of his heart, Miriam.
Maria
Okogu.
Maria.
Now look at him from this perspective that here was a man who was fighting for the unity of the country, because that war of civil war was a unification war.
Yes.
Oh, we want to go. Please don't go. Come back. You know, they fought all of that, leaving shrapnel that was lodged in his lungs.
Yes.
Anybody, he was just lucky. Until date, that thing has become part and parcel of his body.
Yes.
His doctor, Professor Elibuti, was the one who told him, don't do surgery. Leave it, let's treat it and let it be part of your system.
Because Babangida was scared of surgeries. He studied here.
Yes, and he also had bullets, you know, affecting his nerves on the leg. And by the time they treated it, maybe they didn't get the perfect treatment. When he was president, the leg snapped. And it is part of what, you know, snowballed into his backache that was later operated upon, and that has kept him on the wheelchair. So some people want to derisively mock him and say that he was in a wheelchair. No, these are you know, vestiges of the civil war,
yes,
that a man suffered and was able to keep the country in one. And for those of them who fought in the civil war, as painful as it is, they want to see a united Nigeria so that there could be a justification for that war. Whether we have fully been integrated into the mainstream political equation is another matter altogether. But in balancing the algorithms of power in this country, we must bear in mind that people fought to keep the country one. That's why even in politics, you need to balance between North and South to see how we are able to carry everyone along. This country is peculiar in the entire world. We have over 470 languages. We have ethnic disparities here and there. So in order for you to weave together all the intricate logic that forms, you know, the country that, you know, that also help us to build national cohesion, you must consciously at all time, you know, be aware that there are dichotomies here and there, and those dichotomies must be balanced in a way that will help us to move forward. So IBB went through thick and thin, no doubt. And so, but when he now finally got married in that same 1969 in September, it was like a new lease of life, starting, you know, from other perspective. And in no time in 1970, at least there was a seizure to the war, and from there the issue of reconstruction started. No victor, no vanquish, the Aburi Accord and what have you, so many other things.
Grab a cup of tea or something stronger and join us after the break. Welcome back. If you're just joining us, you're onto the literary bar, and then we're discussing A Journey in Service, Baba IBB's autobiography. And with me in the studio to discuss this is his former spokesperson, Pince Kassim Afegbua.
So there's no how you could have written a book like this without dedicating some thoughts and inferences from the role of Yakubu Gowon. And even Yakubu Gowon acknowledged the fact that it was Babangida that restored his rank back to him.
Yes.
And every other after thing after that. And so these are interesting anecdotes, stories that should naturally elicit some level of
speaking
interest.
About anecdotes, the one that actually trips me, the way he remembers the names of people who affected his life, even from when he was 8. I think
he has an almost
elephant brain.
The brain is huge.
But this particular story of his lecturer, of his teacher in secondary school, Ndaji, Ambassador Ndaji. Yes, I mean, to think that this was his teacher in secondary school, and when he became president, he made him an ambassador to Australia.
Yes.
That is really
he's a man who is able to recall his past.
Yes.
Even now, we discuss, you know, oftentimes, and he recalls people's name, you know, just at the snap of the finger. And I'm wondering, I asked him, I said, oh God, we need to interrogate this, your memory. At 84, you can still recall names of events that took place 40 years ago, 45 years ago, and all of that.
It goes farther, even 70, because he calls up some things that happened even when he was 8, when he was, you know, when he was quoting what his grandmother said when just trying to reprimand the sister. He quoted everything verbatim. I think there's a nickname that he shares with someone when Inaliko or something like that. So, but you mentioned Miriam, so let's dwell a bit on her because she was obviously the love of his life, and she contributed immensely to the development of certain projects that when people look back at the Babangida era, they would say, but for Miriam, better life for Nigerian women, you know, that had a strong impact on the women of Nigeria. And of course, we can't fail to point out the irony, a sweet irony in the fact that as the war was going on with the East, the North and the South, he falls in love with a woman from the East.
From Masaba.
Yes, you know, so
well,
that
you know, the average mind of a gentleman officer is to build a family that is loving, that is stable, that is collected, that is calm, so that when he goes out there to confront the very challenges of life and his profession, he knows that there's a peaceful home that he's going to return into. And consciously within the military circle, this is a virtue that is not lost on them. That's why they said, when you are a general, your wife is a rank above you.
Yes.
Because you need that stability of mind. Your brain has to be working. If you are very hostile to your family, the military would naturally frown on that. And for a man who was of the armored corps in the military, they consider themselves as the most brilliant, you know, arm of the military, whatever. So, profession. So, Miriam Babangida, you know, comes across, you know, like an Amazon.
She is, and she was.
Yes, an Amazon that's incomparable when you even interact and engage with her. IBB used to tell me that even growing up, when they got into marriage at that early stages and all of that, you see how she was able to manage the home, you know, manage home, manage people, attend to people, you know, ensure that whoever that comes to the house must eat something before you leave, except there is a reason why you don't have to eat and all of that. To the point that also built a lot of support base for her husband, who was out there facing the challenges of his profession. So in the course of his own trajectory as a professional, some of these Miriam's traits were also found in him. IBB is very receptive to a lot of people, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And within the military, it is the same tradition. I know people whom he was able to give, you know, pass to go for further studies, and they come back to thank him. I know when he was to be given Chief of Army Staff in 1983, after the coup of December 31st, there was resistance from, you know, former President Buhari, who was going to be the head of state, that no, he wouldn't give IBB a Chief of Army Staff because the army loves him so much and he would dominate the entire government before you know it. But the boys say no, but that is the man who can also actually take care of the boys and also keep them in the barracks, you know. And that happened before he was given that Chief of Army Staff. And from that time up to the time they were exiting power, you keep seeing, you know, the role of Miriam. Even when they started the Better Life program, you saw a husband supporting his wife to ensure that what was dear to her heart was pushed to fruition, and for the benefit of the ordinary folks out there. And for the first time, it was a novel idea that you could see governance down to the rural areas. That Better Life also, you know, was collaborated with the DIFRI program, the Directorate of Food, Road and Rural Infrastructure and all of that. From that one, you still saw the way and manner that projects were done down to hamlets, homestead, and villages and all of that. And they still remain there to date. And we thank God that despite the fact that they've left power 32 years ago, and that we lost Miriam 2009, we can still see in clear terms that the daughter, Aisha Babangida, is able to carry the torchlight further. She's still doing a lot of work in not in Mina, in the country, on better life programs. A lot. They are empowering women. They are doing a lot of education of the, the older women. They, at some point, she even united, brought together all the mothers of the nation. The wives of former president, wife of Azikiwe, wife of Aronsi, of Gowon, of quite a number of Murtala. Everybody came to Abuja. They converged on Abuja. And to look at some of their experiences and share with the younger ones who are coming.
That ones that did the Beijing conference.
The Beijing conference, of course, that was in 1994 and all that. So, you see, that was an idea that was novel, and people still appreciated that. And when you go to villages, you see people coming out to say, it was during Babangida that we were able to do this, we were able to do that. Those are stories that will continue to inspire. So, but Madam Babangida's shoes are quite big for anyone to step into.
To fill. We'll just be...
Just the same way that IBB's shoes are quite big. But for whatever it is worth, this book is good for people like a piece of resource material that you can quote and unquote IBB. So before now, about 9 books have been written about IBB.
He's a person that's been most interviewed, most written about.
And this one is his own memoirs, directly in his own words. It may not have presented a perfect rendition of all the issues that came up in all his years, but it's a window to appreciating the circumstances under which he presided over the country and the decisions he took, the reason behind them, and on the basis of that, researchers could have a resource material to reference each time they are talking about the Babangida hegemony, so to speak.
The things about this book that people are not looking at, the child, the young husband, the husband to Miriam, and his journey in the military service from the war, from the Civil War and all of that. Now we want to talk about his presidency when he got in 1985 and all the things he did to get Nigeria to where Nigeria is today, politically, economically, and his foreign policy, because he actually did a lot. And people don't know that a lot of the things we take for granted now, even our political topography has a lot to do with IBB. Something he didn't quite talk much about in this book is how their own coup came about. We know from his stories, even Bukasuka Dimka, the Gideon Oka coup, he gave us a clear story. I mean, he took us on a journey in the Dimka's coup, how he was almost killed, how he had the time to tell his driver, no, don't take this road, Providence. So he got, and they had to talk Dimka out of, I think, FRCN? Talk him out to do. But he did not give us the pleasure of talking us through how the 1985 coup came about. We just opened the page and saw
it's
trade secrets.
No, not trade secret. That's why I said in another platform that there are still many missing links to close up. And the 1985 coup was bloodless. There was no single pint of blood that was split, and maybe it was because of the tact, diplomacy they employed in carrying out that coup, particularly so because the president, Muhammadu Buhari, barely spent 20 months.
The head of state, he didn't call himself president.
Yes, anyone you call them, you are the #1 citizen. So we should forget all this title, head of state and management. He was #1 citizen of the country. Whether you call them head of state, you call them president.
No, Buhari, IBB was very clear in taking this title as president.
It doesn't matter. He just wanted, while he took military president, he wanted to give a human face to his military government.
Did Buhari not have a human face?
It was iron fist approach, whether you like it or not. If you look at the rationale for the coup, as read by
it's here.
Yes.
He's here.
You will see quite a number of things they were not pleased with. And so one of the motivating factors for that coup was the fact that General Buhari, as head of state, took some powers away from the chief of army staff and handed over to Tunde Diagmo. Then he also retired, Ali Gusso. He was a much younger officer, I think called Ali Gusso at that point. And that also, influenced, the decision to begin to plan to unseat him, because he knew that if he could retire Gusso, knowing how Gusso was with him, that it will come after him by sending him out of the military. And so for that reason, when they plotted that coup and they succeeded, Gusso was recalled from retirement and promoted to a brigadier general, and that's from there, things started coming up. So the plot was such that they had to tell MK Abiola to please, use his influence and his friendship with King Abdallah of Saudi Arabia to invite, what's his name now, Tunde Diagmo, so that they can take him out of the equation, because they didn't want a bloody coup. They wanted a bloodless coup. And so King Abdallah extended a private invitation to Tunde Diagmo. He went with his 11-year-old son and all that. Even at a time that they said underage children must not go to pilgrimage. So these are the issues, and that also created
the truth is that, and it's not. Babangida IBB is quite an ambitious person. It's not a dirty word. It's legitimate to have.
It is not a crime to be ambitious.
Yes. So I think, in a sort of Machiavellian way, the end justifying the means, was going to do anything to get power and hold on to it. So in 1985, when he became head of state, I think some of the reasons he's given are things that are still living with us today: corruption. And we all know there's something that we call in Nigeria the settlement culture. It's something a little to the left, a little to the right. I don't know if at the point Babangida said this, but this is something that has always dogged his personality, that he almost institutionalized corruption.
Well, that is
settlement culture.
Yeah, that is actually a lazy man approach to, dissecting the issues that have factorized this country. Because it's quite funny. I've engaged quite a number of brilliant minds, researchers, professors, and all of that. You say Babangida institutionalized corruption. So after he left, why didn't you de-institutionalize it?
It has taken root.
No, you see, the point must be made.
Yes.
In 1966, Yakubu Gowon spoke about the culture of 10%ers.
Yes.
In his speech, his maiden speech. Go and read it. He said this culture of 10%ers must stop. That means people have learned to put 10% in contracts with government and other things they do. In 1975, Murtala Muhammad accused regional leaders and administrators of running their regions like personal fiefdom. It is also in his own speech. By the time you link that up to the missing oil money, 2.8 billion, that fella Anikola Kwewu sang with, 2.8 billion, oil money is missing. That is one. Link that to Shagari's era of democracy, where Umaru Diko said, oh, we cannot, we are not eating from the dustbin yet, and all of that. These are all products of corruption. So, it has been in us. You understand? And it would be wrong, it would be a wrong profiling to say it started from this person. We Africans, we must look at how to, come out of this profiling, or let me say stigmatization, that we are very corrupt.
Yes.
Because the word corruption is not a Nigerian word. It comes from somewhere, it emanated from somewhere.
So why didn't IBB stop it? If
he came to fight, you have even forgotten that Babangida sacked the military administration for misappropriating just 300,000 naira. It's on record.
No, that's a low-hanging fruit.
Yeah. But the point is, Under military government, under the government he ran, he was managing poverty. And that was why he came up with the issue of structural adjustment program, which in other words is called tightening the belt. Because we were living an artificial lifestyle. At a point that the people are easy to compare. Oh, our exchange rate is 2 naira to 1 pound, dollar to this. What was our production quota? You can only attract foreign income, foreign currency, if you are doing production that you can sell, money spinning, products that you can sell to the international market and get dollars in return. But he saw that there was too much of artificiality in terms of our status and what we were living on. What were we really producing? Okay, cocoa, rubber, what again? Granite pyramids in the north. And at some point, because of the exigency of nature and growth and development, some of these things will not be able to cater for the requirement of running a proper, well-funded Nigeria. At every point, we must know that population was growing. And so if productivity is not going to meet up your population growth, there will definitely be some level of hiccup. And for him to have gone to tap into the initiatives of persons who were very brilliant in their reckoning, both that period and even now. Kalu Idika Kalu had worked in the World Bank, Chu Okongo, a first-class brain, and quite a number of persons. We couldn't have said that those guys were empty-headed personalities or appointees who didn't know what it was to begin to come up with policies that would help to mitigate the crisis we found ourselves. So during that era, 20 months of Buhari regime, there were so many things that were wrong. The same way that we still saw the Buhari government 8 years under this democracy, bringing us backward and almost like breaking our bones, unable to move when we're supposed to be running.
The misconception is that what people hear other pundits talking about, they run with. They've not taken the time
to even go through the book.
To read the book. Like I said, it's
420.
Yes, about 420 pages of somebody's life story. A man took time to share his life with us. And I think we should do him a bit of a justice by taking our time to read what is in this book. Babangida is not all about June 12th. There's so much more. There's so much more to him. So in talking about his life, his wife, I must point out at this time that Babangida is always present in all the coups and counter coups. But one of those coups, or two of them almost took his life. The one with Buka Suka Dimka, Providence intervened and he changed the course of his driving. And another one, I think the Gideon Oka coup, the wife got up, she was very quick-witted, sharp, and she noticed that I think the guards were a bit different or absent, and she woke him up and he immediately got into action. So every time they say there's a coup, there's a Babangida. He's a man with, he has more than 9 lives now because he survived. He survived all of it. But now we're going straight into his military presidency. Another thing that, when you mention his presidency, you talk about the structural adjustment program. But that's not even all. He did so much. MAMSA, DFRI, name it, TAC,
NCC,
so NCC,
NBC,
NBC. The fact that we're all here enjoying
FRC,
yes,
National Directorate of Employment,
yes,
NAF Fund,
yes,
quite a number.
And those are the things he's proud of. Like he points out that the TV and co we're all enjoying now is from his unbonding during his privatization. But I said with all of those accolades came the knocks. Structural adjustment program, the devaluation of the Naira, and all of that. And I was saying that of all the coups he took time to talk about, he didn't actually dwell on the shenanigans or the mechanisms that brought him to power.
That one I gave you an explanation to, and so the rest is left with him. But he knows why he didn't do so much on that. But informally he had told me the motivation behind that coup, and it is the same we Nigerians that usually invite them to take over government.
Yes, we'll go into that. So he talked about corruption, but there's something, he just almost dismissed the government of his predecessors by talking about queues. We're always queuing up, as if, it was from queuing up that things were going to fall. Even people standing in line to go and get essential commodities that were scarce. But looking at Nigeria today, the level of indiscipline that pervades this society, I'm wondering if we have not maintained that trajectory of imbibing, standing in line, that, things might not be a bit different. So for some of us who enjoy the dividends of Y Brigade, the people queuing up and all those things, it would have been better if we had imbibed that behavior. We didn't have to throw it away.
No, we didn't throw it away. We still imbibe it. We still imbibe it. But it wasn't a direct response to the problems we have in the country.
It wasn't.
It's just a matter of maintaining some public orderliness.
Orderliness. We don't have it anymore.
See, there's so much about us. And that's why you see I keep making the point that you need to have some level of attitudinal reorientation of minds of the citizens for you to get your acts right. Because you may come up with a policy initiative that should ordinarily benefit the people, but when the people who are supposed to be the implementers of your policy are also not keen into it, they are not seeing the discipline that is required, then it will also take away something from that policy. You don't blame government and see government as one country versus us, the people. It has to be symbiotic. It's a two-way traffic. Either way, we must ensure that we are the government, because we are the repositors of power. The real repositors of power are the people. But when the people are cut off from the synchrony, that should naturally, bind us together, then it becomes a problem. Structural adjustment program, well thought out policy, no doubt. Till today, I still go back to it. I read a lot of commentaries. I've engaged quite a number of persons and all of that. At that material time, that was very auspicious. It was an important, program that we needed to do, because it's like a reawakening of thoughts. Come, wait a minute. What are we doing? We are living an artificial lifestyle. We are bragging that dollar to power is the, but yet we are not doing productivity. We are not into production that will fetch us the foreign income. And so it just felt that no, we need to structurally adjust a lot of things. What you throw away, that because we felt we are in an era of surplus, you dump things away. Your vehicle has just developed a fault. You just dump it. You want to go and buy another because you can buy it with 2,000 naira and all that. Structural adjustment program made you to go back to that vehicle to fix it and use it, in line or in addition to the new one that you are trying to buy. So it was a call to service, a call to cut waste that was very prevalent at that period. And those persons who came up with this structural adjustment program, some critics are easy to say it's Bretton Woods institutions that came up with it, World Bank this, World Bank that. But essentially we had Nigerians who were very brilliant Nigerians who also understood where SAP worked in some other places.
Yes, but the truth is that there were also very hungry Nigerians who those dividends of SAP had not yet touched. In some of the things he said, I think Olufalaye, who was working with him as a secretary to
the government,
I think they had issues with some of the cartoons that were depicting very long-necked Nigerians that showed how hungry
they were. You should expect that. And a military government will naturally have very anti-military press or media.
I mean, but
if you are going to be bogged down by the level of those criticisms, you won't work.
Yes. So Babangida, I think he took this really personal. I mean, for him to mention in his book those long-necked cartoons, and how it bothered them. But he said something in page 173. He said, therefore, the SAP riots came to us first as an attempt to by politically motivated civilian forces to discredit us and destabilize the nation. In the military mindset, there are two types of people, enemies foes or friends.
Yeah.
So our political opponents were therefore primarily enemy forces before they were fellow Nigerians. Consequently, we had to quell the opposition before they destabilized our hold on power by discrediting us. This is the natural survival instinct and doctrine of a military regime. So,
you see, from what you have even read, it's obvious that even the military made a lot of people.
Made?
Yes, made a lot of people, a lot of civilians.
Oh, of course.
The Femi Falanas of this world.
Oh.
The Michael Zuckerman of this world. The Galifa Emi of this world.
Those were activists.
They were activists under military. It was the military that produced them, because if there was freedom, there won't be need for freedom fighters.
So when you say made them, it sounds positive, but it's not. They didn't need to go to prison.
It is. You see, let me tell you, that is what made them to be activists. You can't be activists on the street. You don't visit prison. You need to visit
Could
prison.
they not have chosen? They were lawyers.
You see, let me tell you, I think, me, I'm a very practical person.
Yes.
If you say you are an activist, there must be a reason why you are an activist. Martin Luther King was an activist.
Yes.
He paid the price. He went through a lot of, but today, he still be recognized as somebody who liberated certain, fundamental rights and all of that of an average black person in America. And so, in Nigeria, you have people who are calling themselves activists today who didn't even go to the trenches. They have not even seen the four walls of the prison to say, this is a belief, this is my belief, I believe in this doctrine. I must pursue it to logical conclusion. Without Babangida's government, you won't have a Femi Falana.
So they would be relevant in history.
How many activists are you seeing today in Nigeria under democracy?
Because there's no need.
You see, there's no need. That's what I'm telling you, but they're also adding value to society. That level of activism. I'm not talking about the scrappy ones and that just want to make noise for the sake of noise.
The influencers.
I call them, what are they influencing? I don't have to believe in your belief system. I don't have to swallow hook, line, and sinker what you're trying to tell me. I'm telling you that if there were to be freedom all over the world, there won't be need for freedom fighters.
Okay.
So because there is no freedom, it has given employment opportunity for freedom fighters.
But this is the Babangida fighting for Nigerians.
I am telling you, I am just giving an allusion. If there are no human rights abuses, there won't be work for human rights crusaders.
Okay.
Doesn't it follow?
So he provided employment for a niche group of people.
Yes, a certain employment opportunities. And that is how society is ordered. Because there is no perfect society anywhere in the world.
Oh, sure.
So when you have this kind of imperfections, injustices and all of that created by act of omission or commission, there are people who are going to, so it's like you are running towards a perfect society. A perfect society would deny all of those persons the employment opportunity they have. So like Femi Falana was speaking in one of his outings after the book came out, but I'm sure that he didn't read that book before he went to television, and he was saying that he was locked up, that they charged him for treason, they did this. All of those processes, made him thick, made him who he is in terms of advocacy, fighting for the ordinary persons and all of that. To the point that even when certain persons were trying to drag him in the media, very dark man, what have you, people rose in defense of him. Okay. You understand? So that has also built him up. It's like Michael Zuckerman, my brother. He's a constitutional lawyer, is this and all that. In those days, their role also helped the government of the day to take certain decisions, influence certain decisions, because they'll be conscious. Oh, Femi Falana is there, he's going to make noise if we come up with this policy. Oh, Galifa Emi is there, he's going to make noise if we come up with this policy.
I think that paints it better than you're saying it now.
No. Or Michael Zuckerman is there if I'm going to make this policy. So whether the one I said before and even this one, it is the same end product that I'm looking at. That's the truth. So you don't have to have a perfect society, whether you are running a democracy or not, but in the midst of those imperfections, there are certain things that we do that also help to drive governance.
Yes. So let me, on the theme of perfection, President Babangida at a point when he wanted Nigeria to go back to the democratic system, a lot of politicians came up that were interested in trying out their luck politically and all that. But in his wisdom, in looking for perfection, he cancelled 23 of those parties. Yeah. And then after, of course, that's when he got the title Maradona. He kept moving the goalpost. But he said he wanted, and I don't know if this naivety fed into his ambition to stay longer in power, when he said he wanted a new set of politicians that were not tainted.
New breed.
New breed that were not tainted by corruption in Nigeria. You've just said that corruption has been with us even before Gowon.
Yeah, but
so why would Babangida conveniently fit into that?
But the extent of it differs.
Oh, really?
Yeah. You may have very destructive corruption. You may have, there's what they call productive corruption. I read Professor Sam Aluko when he delivered a particular paper in Germany.
Productive corruption.
Yeah, that's wise. African corruption is externalized and destructive. That those of the Europe and other Western countries, the corruption is internalized and productive. And I give you a graphic example because I did a course in anti-corruption in the US sometime, and this particular analogy of some Aluko find expression in some of the discoveries that were learned in the course of that particular course. People steal money. They take money from public till. There are sanctions, there are punishments, in the process against those who are culpable, who are caught in the process. But there's also an aspect to it. If a man has stolen 1 billion naira and you don't discover it, the man has gone away with it. But if a man has stolen 1 billion naira and you discover it, there's what they call relooting the loot.
You take it back.
No, because people who brought in Abacha's stolen money under Buhari's government, they relooted it. And we didn't know. So let me
bring it. This book is a lot.
Yeah, let me come back, in graphically explaining this. If that 1 billion naira that you are able to discover, if you call the person and says, "Come, we don't want you to be a burden to the economy or those who are dependent on you. Come up with a feasibility study on how to set up a company such that 1 billion will be your capital outlay. And with this 1 billion, we want to employ 100 Nigerians in whatever you are coming up with. So if it's a company, if it's an industry,
that's productive corruption.
Yes, you invest that money in that process. You that were the corporate, you'll be part of it. Government will set up other persons to be part of it.
I must bring you back to this book because if we go into that is you have to come back to discuss this productive corruption.
No, that's the truth.
So because we can't talk about Babangida without going to the June 12th,
no problem.
Right? But I'm saying that he laid the foundation for this two-party system that we had, NRC and SDP. And a lot of us were, because he became not just the political godfather, but the political god, creating this political system the way he saw fit. Because after those people went back, came up with, he said no. And his reasons, sometimes when I'm reading this book, I'm like, why? And then a few paragraphs, I understand why he did that. Because he said Nigeria had been through so much with a war. If you do 3-5 political parties, ethnic groups will go and align with each other. But the SDP and NRC, so we needed to have two parties so that Igbo, Hausa, Yoruba, three of you and Igala, it's only these two parties. Fine, it made sense. It threw up Tofa, Abiola eventually, and things didn't quite work out. But before you even say that, when he had the elections that we had governors under a form of a diarchy, he now came and he said even some of the governors did not want a proper transition to democratic rule because they were happy that, we're occupying this space. And that is where he said, you people did not understand what was going on behind the scene. When you blame the military, sometimes we're here on the invitation of the civilian populists.
Yes.
So, but like I said, was that not convenience keen into his ambition to be a president for how long? Transit from 8 years into...
No, it wasn't. Yeah, he didn't have that intention. It wasn't like Abacha who wanted transmutation after 5 years.
Abacha didn't write his book, so we can't...
No, say transmutation, but you have forgotten that 5 political parties on the same leprous hand endorsed him. So please, don't let us pretend about it. In the same way that we are pretending about the third term of Obasanjo. So please, you see, the issues that are so obvious, they are obvious. Nigerians would like to pretend so much. Everybody, we behave like the chinedu bird. They like to feast on maggots, but they don't like the smell of the feces. And the feces produce maggots, whether you like it or not. So please, let us always
if you think that is a spade, but people are interrogating Babangida's book, and they don't understand.
They can interrogate Babangida's book. They should also can write their own books. Let us interrogate them.
That's what I'm saying. Abacha did not write his book for us.
No, it doesn't matter. But there's a history about Abacha. We know the history. We know a lot of things that happened on Abacha.
There's a history about IBB, which is not the truth. And he's trying to say.
Well, anyway, he has written the one that if he didn't write, you say he didn't write. He has written. That is his view. Whether you like it or not, that is his view. And you cannot take that view away from him.
No, we're not.
That's why it's called autobiography.
And we're here talking about it.
Yeah, it's fine. So what I'm telling you in essence is that you are not bound to agree with everything he has put down here.
No.
Hook, line, and sinker.
No.
But for God's sake, he has the right that cannot be taken away by anybody to put his thoughts into this kind of very flowery prose.
Yes.
And in that process, you can interrogate things. Only God knows the environment upon which certain decisions were taken. I wasn't there as an eyewitness. Yes. But he was the one who was wearing who was wearing the shoes at that point in time, and he knows exactly where it pinches. Yeah. And so, to that extent, I want us first and foremost to give him credit.
Oh, I do.
That he deserves to be commended that he sat down to write this book. Secondly, give him credit that he has even said some things that people never expected that he would say.
Yes.
Also, give him credit that, okay, to a large extent, he's able to document his trajectory as military president in one way. It may not be perfect. No human being is perfect. There will be mistakes, there will be missteps everywhere. But for God's sake, to deny that he didn't do things positively for the well-being of the country would be to miss the point altogether. I don't want people who want to use June 12 as a single to tar the entire government as a negative government. No way. No. This private television we are enjoying today, he started it.
He started, yeah.
All these new generation banks we are talking about, they started during his time. You see NDLA, NAFDAC, all of this, road safety, he started them. So, NERFON, giving those to entrepreneurs and all of that, he started them. I was happy when Dangote came to the event and told everybody that he is the father of the private sector.
Oh,
and the private sector is a sector driving Nigeria's economy, whether you like it or not.
No doubt that Babangida had a vision for the country.
The misstep of June 12 has happened. It has happened. He has accepted full responsibility as a hallmark of contemporary leadership. He has apologized. He has said if he had opportunity to take another decision, he will not follow that route.
Which I really applaud.
Yes, that's okay.
He could man up
but
and say,
you keep dwelling on that. Remove third major brief for Lagos and let me see whether Lagos will not be chaotic. Even closing it down alone, Lagos people were agonizing and shouting. You know, and they say he didn't do anything. Like somebody called him and say he didn't do anything. It's such a blanket, condemnation. It's what I don't enjoy.
It will be cognitive dissonance if people say that Babangida did not
look at even anything. In Lagos, I can count how many bridges he built during his time. How many have been added to this democracy?
How many did he build in
bridges? Oworosoki, Ikeja Abaka, Ikeja near the General Hospital. What was it called now? There was one particular bridge I saw as I was coming here, built by him. So many of them. And you sit down and say the man didn't do anything. A lot of the roads in Lagos that he opened up and all.
It's not possible to say that he didn't do anything.
So a man cannot be 100% perfect. He's a human being. He made a mistake on June 12. Agreed, accept. But for God's sake, commend him for the good, the bad, and condemn him for the bad he did. No problem. But to continue to say one blanket condemnation, everybody didn't endorse June 12. And now members didn't endorse June 12. They wrote a petition that June 12 should be cancelled. They wrote a petition that Abiola was wearing the logo of his party, the horse, the white horse on top of his agbada, that particular, which was tantamount to campaigning and against the law. So what are you saying? There are people who condemned him, they wanted cancellation. There were actors who went to court. So it's
ABN
not,
and
of course, anything you like, call them. I'm just telling you. So
who sponsored them?
June 12 does not. They have their sponsor. They are all known. So June 12 was not. It's some kind of referendum that tends to suggest that we were all agreed. No, there were Yoruba Obas who were part and parcel of the process of the annulment.
Was it not convenient for the ABN to just come up and Babangida, who's just said that under the mill, is that your friend or a foe? Why did he not at that time recognize that ABN, Association for Better Nigeria, under Nzeribe, they were foes to the development and progress of Nigeria?
So what would you expect him to do at that point? He should do what?
Why would he have agreed to take their judgments?
He didn't.
He could have
It's not the one. A court is a court. Any court is a court.
That's why I said it was convenient for him.
No, it's not about being convenient. The question should be, why did the judge, conscious of the realities on the ground, why did he grant that judgment? These are the issues. It's just like now, as we are in a democracy, and some persons will take cases to court and all that. You know that this case is a bad case, but at the end of the day, they get judgment. And you'll be wondering. So you can blame the outcome, but the processes leading to the outcome were premeditated by some individuals. And so you don't say why it was convenient. A court is a court, it's an independent arm of government. And so the judiciary played their role, they gave verdicts, and the people who were given the verdicts, they are Nigerians who understood what was going on. They could have refused to give such kind of verdict. And so if they didn't refuse and they gave verdicts, it means that there must be a reason for that.
Grab a cup of tea or something stronger and join us after the break. Thank you for joining us again for the second part, and we'll continue with the conversation. Thank you.
So I appreciate the fact that Babangida says I accept full responsibility, both the good, the bad, and the ugly. President Obasanjo, former President Obasanjo, set the tone, even at the book launch, that this is what we are going to get. And IBB is very conveniently at home with all shades of opinion, viewpoints by people, because he tells me, he's a prince. If you don't listen to critics and all that, you won't even learn.
Yeah.
So I love people criticizing me. I love people attacking me and all of that, because that way I may have a better, informed knowledge about an issue.
Yeah.
And don't forget, he was 44 years old when he took over government. He left at 52. There are a lot of 52-year-olds now that haven't even started life.
Yes, so, and talking about all the critics, he points out that Gani Fahmi was one man that has his full respect.
Yes,
full respect of all the critics you mentioned.
There were occasions after leaving government that himself and Gani wanted to meet. That's the truth. There are others who also wanted to serve in his government, who are also making noise now. I just don't want to noise.
No. Like I said, he's a very witty, charming person. I think he granted a very telling interview to Tell after he left office. And I remember where they said, oh, everybody's just jailing Gani. He said, why will I not jail you? If everybody's jailing him, why will I not do the same? Of course, he said that in jest.
Yes.
And in that interview with Tell, he talked about some of those nicknames that we freely use with him, Maradona, Evil Genius. And I think when I was doing the research for this interview, my friend said, oh, Babangida said he's an evil genius. And I had to go back to her after reading this book. Yes. And I said, he didn't say that.
The media.
People said, oh, if Tofa wins is his friend, if Abiola wins is his friend, said that evil genius, he benefits both ways. Yes. And he says, can a genius be evil? That is counterintuitive.
Exactly.
So those are some of the things about him. We'll never agree on if June 12 this, if June 12. But Nigeria is there for us.
It is
that we keep doing.
It's suspected that this kind of divergent viewpoints, populate the public space because, give or take, Nigeria is a multi-plural society. So our viewpoints are expected to be divergent. They are expected to be multi-plural.
Yeah.
Especially such that there is no homogeneity of purpose on so many issues. You throw any discourse into the public fray, you are going to have as many as our population can carry us. If it is 200 million people, you have 200 million opinions.
Yeah.
But one thing you must know fundamentally, government all over the world are not dictated by public opinion, because public opinion, you can't gauge public opinion. You don't know the one that is superior to what you're trying to do and the one that is inferior to it. And because everybody has different opinion, the channels of communicating that opinion also matter. There are those who, have easy access to the media. There are others who just want to make noise on the street. They are all Nigerians. And so, to a large extent, we just need to believe leaders when they take certain decisions. It's like President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and just like every other president, they have access to a lot of information which you and I do not have access to. Give them the benefits of doubt, that because they have access to that kind of information, they process information that come to them, and they use that information to take decisions. Whether those decisions are going to be far-reaching, plausible, and therapeutic enough to address the problem before them or the challenge before them is another matter altogether. But not to take a decision at all with all the information that are, a flurry of information that are all over the public space, is to miss the point. So you can, and whatever decision they take may not be right at all times, but may be influenced by the socio-political milieu around them. You have aides, you have advisors. How honest are the advisors in telling you things? Oh, this may provoke the number one citizen. Let me not tell him, let me tell him the sweet one that you want to hear. But there are leaders who want to hear the sad, the negative ones, so that they will know exactly that you are doing them a whole wall of good in trying to take a decision.
And Babangida,
I have been in government. I served in Adam Sushumole's government, and I saw the behavioral patterns of a lot of appointees. I'm the blunt one. I'll tell you the way it is. If you are not doing good inside this, I'll tell you. Ask those of us who were in cabinet together. I will challenge the chairman of the cabinet, who is the governor of the state, Adam Sushumbole. It does not mean that I don't like him. That is why IBB is very much in love with Dangiwa Omar. Dangiwa Omar is very critical and all that, but he means no harm. Because when you listen to those kind of people, you are able to also learn and see the other side of life. Because a lot of aides, advisors, and they genuflect too much, patronizing, salami issues around their leaders because they feel they want to curry certain favor. I am not one of those. Even as we speak now, I sit down with IBB, I interrogate him on a number of issues. That's why I'm able to, equip myself with information that are even beyond the spectrum of this book.
But going by that, I mean, he mentioned in this book, and that's a rumor that he's confirmed, that, people say, IBB in the evening sometimes just drive a beetle around to feel the pulse of the people, and he confirmed that
he does that.
He used to do that. So at least he was closer to the people than most people, if I would say. Now, another part of this book that, I mean, people wondered, what happened. People talked about Diligiwa, always connecting him, and he came out here and said, I didn't know anything about that. It was a shock to me. Is this truth? If you have your evidence, bring it and go. But the one that is very, very close to my heart is the VATSA, the execution of VATSA after the fall coup attempt. And he goes on to say that in the military, if you're going to do a coup, it's either you win, the consequence is death, because that's treason. But beyond that, he said something that happens with us, in friendships over the years. He mentioned the fact that growing up with VATSA, that he noticed that VATSA was always jealous of him, that I think even when they were in school, when he was a head boy, VATSA flouted some of the rules because he was in charge, and then growing up, little things like that. And that is what you call on the street today, frenemies. So even though he didn't believe it initially that VATSA was going to plot a coup that would kill him, at the end of the day, it all made sense to him. I could feel a thread of maybe regret or guilt that, a close friend of mine had to go.
No. I don't want to look at it from the point of guilt. Please,
No, maybe a bit of regret, not
no, not even regret. Listen,
okay.
Let us face facts. I don't want us to light dressing. This here is the curious irony. Nigerians, bemoans military government. The same Nigerians who bemoan military government, the same Nigerians that are expressing sentiments over a coup plot. Who is doing the coup plot?
We're civilians. We're not wired like the military.
No. You are not getting the point. If you condemn military government and you shouldn't embrace anyone who is trying to plot a coup to in furtherance on another military government. That is one aspect. That's curious irony for me. It's ironical. You don't do that. Now, when you are enlisting in the Nigerian army, you sign your death warrant. It is still being in practice till today. Maybe you have not seen the form. I have my cousins who are in the military. They bring in, your parents will sign that this person, if he dies or in the course of this, you have no case to answer with government. It's there. And now, here was a coup. You said Versa is phantom coup. Who says it's phantom? How do you define it? How do you define phantom coup? There was an investigation that was carried out by the military, a tribunal, for which Versa offered to defend himself. I read the manuscripts long time ago as a journalist here in Lagos. I went to a man in Festa who had, excerpts of those trials and all of that. And it was discovered that Versa was releasing money to those boys. But he said it was for his farm along Kaduna Road. But they went there to check. There was no activity going on in that farm at that period. So it is okay. He came back from Makkah. IBB called him and said, "This is what I'm hearing. We are friends. Can you confide in me? Because at this level, I can still protect you. But once it gets to the point of tribunal, I won't be able to protect you again. It will now become institutional. That's the military. And you know the consequences." Versa said, no, he didn't attempt to plan any coup and all that. He swore by the Holy Quran and all that. Okay, fine. Instead of taking him to this, he said, please, they should keep him in house arrest.
He tried to escape?
Yes. Then he tried to escape through the AC hole and all that. His stomach got stuck in between. He now called for help. Now he was, but you say you don't have a hand in this. Why are you trying to escape? A clear conscience fears no accusation. In the process, they tried everything and all of that, and it became obvious that, yes, copious evidence that he was culpable. So if Babangida tries to protect him as his friend, he will have been stepping on the sore toes of others. Don't forget that he doesn't owe the military. He didn't owe the military. It was just number one first among equals of those who plotted coup. And in the military, there's what they call cabal. Everybody has got cabal. You've got a godfather that will not tell you from your NDA or even from other training schools, whether in India or UK or elsewhere. You must have a godfather. So in the process of all of this, you have to also be careful in taking decisions, because you don't know who stole you and who saw toes you are stepping on. So when I get people say Versa, his best friend is this, there's an issue of friendship when it comes to that level, because you are talking about an institution that is being trained to kill.
Now I'm talking about a human being who grew up with some. You must certainly feel an element of regret.
Okay, what should we have done? Okay, you should protect him and others will go and kill. So are they more human than him?
No. I'm not saying, they will do whatever they have to do militarily. And I'm saying that the loss of a friendship, the loss of a human being, that's my point.
Who told you that? IBB felt it. Till today, he felt it.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, till tomorrow, he still feels it.
That's what I'm saying. It's not an element of regret.
And it's not everything we have to be saying on TV. Okay. I know the level of involvement he has with the Versa family.
I've never met. This is a book. He put everything here. That's everything I'm saying came from here.
No, I'm also telling you that it's not everything we have to say on TV. That's the truth.
Maybe we'll say it.
That's just the truth. So, but essentially, IBB has, a humane mind, a humane heart. IBB is humble to people.
Yes.
IBB is interactive. IBB is engaging. IBB does not, detest anybody in this country. If you call your local government, he will mention 1, 2, 3 persons he had opportunity to deal with.
He said that.
Things. And that is why you see, 32 years after leaving office, he was able to assemble that kind of quality crowd in Abuja,
he mentioned
in the audience in Abuja.
Even beyond
for the book launch and its presidential library.
Yeah, he says his house is like a pilgrimage. People looking for favors, people who want to identify with him, photo opportunities.
Yeah, they come.
His doors are open. But before we round up, we've talked about VAXA. I just, people take issues with the fact that Babangida is almost passing off the blame to Abacha. And his family has come out now up in and said, no, don't blame our father. You've written your book. He's not here to write his own. How do we see that?
It's not about passing blame. I appeared on one TV about 2 or 3 days ago and all that. I think he watched me when I tried to respond to the Abacha. And he called me and said, Prince, you don't need to respond to the Abacha family any longer.
Yeah.
Don't even talk about them because they didn't know what transpired when we were in government.
Okay.
And they are my children also.
Okay.
And on a good day, my daughter married to their family. So I don't want us to begin to see it.
Okay.
As a competition. We knew what transpired. There were actors who are still alive. There were my lieutenants who were brigadier general, who are colonel and other, who are still alive, who has also, played formidable roles in this country, and who knew what had transpired. So I don't have to tell a lie because I want to score a point. He told me that. So on the basis of that, I want to recognize and accord him that respect that I don't have to discuss anything about the Abacha.
About Abacha. Well,
if it's Abacha, the individual, I can talk about that because I'm also an adult. And I saw things that happened during that period. In one of my writings, I told you how we went to Maiduguri for convention under the grassroots democratic movement. I went with MD Yusufu, now of blessed memory, who was contesting against Abacha. And when we go to Maiduguri at the Kaneme Stadium, they use what's it called, a Pojo 504 to represent Abacha as the candidate. And there were men saluting that vehicle as if Abacha was there. The engine of that vehicle was on. The flag of the Nigerian flag was there. The military flag was there. And they were saluting. By the time we were to start, after accreditation, we were to start voting, they took light. Power failure just within the precinct of that stadium. And before you see Jack Robinson, 1 hour later, light was restored, and they declared the result that Abacha had won. So that's how he became a candidate of the grassroots democratic movement in consonance with other 4 others, becoming 5 parties that endorsed him to transmute into a civilian democracy. And so there are quite a number of things we want to talk about Abacha regime. We have the Ogoni 9, the slaughter of Saruwa and others. We had Feriwani, we had this thing. If you listen to the confessions of Sergeant Rogers, you hear all the kind of things that transpire. So I don't want to begin to go back onto all of those. Yeah. But I'm interested in the fact that somebody has documented his own this thing. Rightly or wrongly, you can't take it away from him that he has written something. Go and interrogate it, critique it, but it will form a research material for students of politics, students of leadership, students of military adventurism in the context of power in Nigeria.
It will. In closing, I just want to read
this is your third closing.
The list. No, you see how interesting you are. So some of the institutions that have benefited from IBB's innovation is the Federal Road Safety Corps, the Bureau of Public Enterprises, the Technical Aid Corps, of which I think the young man from Burkina Faso then wanted to replicate in his country, the one that was
the
killed.
Technical Aid Corps which was under Professor Bolaji Akiyemi for Foreign Affairs Minister and all of that. Even the primary health care that of Oliko Irasakuti remains the best in
People's Bank and all these places.
You remember the ECOMOG to build Liberia out of Sierra Leone and all of that. So many things that he did.
Even his foreign policy, has far-reaching implications, that. Yeah. I think if Nigeria continued along that line, our position as the leaders of Africa will still be there, and which he wanted us to have a buy-in and then the rest of the world to see. So I think
the Abuja we are enjoying today.
Yes, he moved to.
Built it up.
It's 420 pages, so 1 hour can do justice to this man. So I think we should have a roundtable sessions where IBB, I think, should have a leadership school where some of this is finer
That
points
is
and
why
charisma.
that is why the presidential library becomes so important. I know he already has a foundation registered and documented with the Corporate Affairs Commission.
Yes,
and they will commence building this presidential library in Mina in no time.
Like I said, there are so many things we do not understand.
And it will be a good reservoir of knowledge where people can go into and study quite a number of things.
Yes.
Even the dynamics of a military profession, even the sensitivity of it, and the peculiar intrigues, all of these, they are studies that will naturally enrich the human mind.
Yes,
but
his group of students, the IBB boys, that he said now that they are IBB statesmen, IBB elder statesmen. These are people he taught, I think, at, is it Jaji or
Nigerian Defense Academy.
At Nigerian Defense. These are the people that he tried to pass on some of the knowledge that he has.
And it's a solid brain, very intelligent, very brilliant mind.
That's what I'm saying.
People must know that, very articulate.
Yes, so Babangida is almost like a ringmaster, where when he just raises his whip, things happen. Either you fall in line or you're at the fringe, but somehow you always acknowledge him.
Well, thank God. Such people come once in 100 years in the life of nations, just like comets.
Yes.
So that's why, for me, I call him the last dawn of the Nigerian political edifice.
Well, we will have other dawns. I'm sure it will be his wish.
The last dawn for now, in this century.
Well, the good Lord will be kind to us that at least through his IBB boys and IBB elder statement and through his library.
You listen to what the president said, President Tinubu, and even his spokesman made a correction of what the reviewer said, that Babangida was a tormentor in chief, so to speak, and that he said, they correct that, no, IBB inspired him under the new breed politics to enter into the fray, and he contested for Senate and won. That was when he discovered, his love for politics and what have you. And today, because he has been in the trenches, he fought all of that, he became president of Nigeria.
Was he one of those celebrity activists too that IBB threw up?
No, of course, of course.
I think,
of course.
Okay, I think that Babangida is one of those, even our current president, Tinubu, in his own times, also a man we need to
you see him, you see Tinubu also building men and women.
Yeah, so
he has his own cabal. Let me put it that way.
Pince Kassim Afegbua, we can't get enough of this. So my producer is screaming, we need to end now. So I just want to thank you for being here, and I really appreciate your time and your presence, given your busy schedule. I know you had to come in from Abuja to talk to a lot of us here in Lagos. And to you out there, thank you for watching. Find this book and read it with an open mind.
Yes.
You'll enjoy it as much as I did. Remember that the literary bar is always open. For more, please follow us on Facebook, X, and Instagram, and do subscribe to our YouTube channel at Plus TV Africa. You can watch us on DSTV channel 408 and on YouTube. Make a life a great story. My name is Chinedu. Bye-bye.